Hi everybody. Today we're going to explore Rapid, which is a tool developed by A&D Solutions. And Rapid is a plugin for Adobe Experience Manager, which essentially makes the CMS, which essentially allows to use Adobe Experience Manager as a decoupled headless content management systems. So in a nutshell, basically, if you use the Rapid plugin, you will be able to use Adobe Experience Manager in paradigms or programming languages that it does not natively support. So I could use the Rapid plugin to build, let's say, C#, Golang, Node.js, PHP, what have you, applications for Adobe Experience Manager that looks and feels like they are native to Adobe Experience Manager, but I can develop them in any languages, and I can develop them in any programming paradigms, maybe a 12-factor, microservices, cloud native application, it may be a front-end like Angular 2, React.js application, what have you. So basically this plugin enables you to use the content management system regardless of your development paradigm. So without further ado, let's get started in exploring this plugin. So the first thing to do is obviously you have to have Adobe Experience Manager running, which I have right now. I'm running Adobe Experience Manager 6.2, and it is a fresh install of Adobe Experience Manager, so that will be my first sign in. At this point, Rapid is not installed, and there's no knowledge of Rapid by the CMS. So let's let that get started. And basically, if you're familiar with CMS, basically when you check out the documentation, installing Rapid is just about installing two zip packages that would be provided to you by the A&D Solution team. Alright, I will cancel that right now. Don't ask me again, don't show. There we go. And essentially, we just navigate to CRXDE, go to the package manager, and I have already downloaded the plugin. So right now I'm just about to install it, and right here, this is Rapid and the Rapid Comments package. So I'm gonna, which is the only dependency of Rapid, and it is also provided by A&Ds. So I'm going to open the Commons and install it. There we go. Install. That's it. And I'm also going to install Rapid. That's it. So that's pretty much all you have to do to set up Rapid. At this point, Rapid is installed and is ready to run on this system. So if you look at the documentation does recommend to set up the externalizer service in AEM, and basically it is a service that allows you to externalize the website. So basically it's just a service that takes some parameters where you basically inform AEM about the host names that you're going to use to expose it to the outside world. So if you intend to use AEM, you know, in, I don't know, example.com, whatnot, that's where you would do that. And this is a recommendation that you do not leave this with the default localhost values, and you update them to reflect the correct host names. Well, in my case, I'm just gonna use it in my development machine, so localhost is just fine. I do not need to configure this service. So what we're gonna do today is to be able to wrap our head around what Rapid does exactly. I've created a very simple demo application to go over some of the basic features of Rapid, and is going to be a PHP application. And again, this is not a requirement of Rapid. Rapid will work with virtually any programming languages, any programming paradigm. So I just chose to develop this demo in PHP because it is a language that is built from scratch for the web. So following along is extremely easy in PHP. So this application is very simple. It consists of just 3 files, and basically it is structured like a MVC-ish application. So those three files. So you have my index.php, which contains the HTMLs, and I'm going to consider that my view for all intents and purposes. That's it. And then I have a contents.json file, which only has 2 properties, title and text, and I'm going to use that as my model. And that content service, which I'm going to use as my quote-unquote controller, which is a file that only has one very intuitive function. Even if you don't know PHP, again, it reads very simply: get content. I pass it the content name, and basically I'm asking to file get content of the content JSON, decode it, and return the value of the property that was asked. And that's it. Here I echo get content, which basically renders it, and echo get content text. So when I run this application, I expect to see the title of my application and the text lorem ipsum in my div right here. So without further ado, let's start this application. I'm going to run a local PHP development server at localhost 3000. Okay, and there we have it. That's it. That's my application. It's a view source. That's the output of the application. Again, very simple stuff, right? Again, I have to insist it could have been a .NET application, a Java application, a Node.js application, what have you. So what's important to notice at the moment is this application has no knowledge of AEM whatsoever. As you just saw, it's just a plain vanilla application. And so we're going to introduce Rapid AEM to this application using Rapid, of course. So the way you do so is by adding the Rapid script tag as the first script in this application. Okay, and basically the path of that script tag contains the following parts. So Rapid, obviously the Rapid service and edit, kind of an edit controller to put Rapid in edit mode, and the last part of the path, sample, it's just the name of a corresponding application in AEM, right? So if I wanted to link, so to speak, my application to the geometrics app, that's where I would do it. That's where I would do it, right? I would just replace that sample and use geometrics. Right now, I am using sample, and this application, the target application, it can be an existing application. It does not have to be. It could also be, a new application. If the target application does not exist, Rapid will go ahead and create that application itself. Okay, so let's go ahead and check our Adobe Experience Manager. Let's check out CRXD Lite. As you can see, just plain install of AEM. There's no application other than Rapid and the Rapid Comments package, which we just installed. And let's go ahead and save that and give it a shot to see what happens. Okay, the first thing that is Rapid asks for, my credential, so that it knows what under which user to perform all the operation that's going to be done in AEM. And I get a nice greeting, accept some license agreement, and that's it. Rapid is asking me to confirm my host, right? And right now, it's important to note that Rapid will not let me start if I'm using localhost, and basically Rapid is very particular about host names, and Rapid just wants me to make sure that I know that I'm just using localhost and not a real domain name. And I'm saying, okay, this is okay, this is not a mistake, I intend to use localhost, so that's fine. And that's it. Rapid relaxes and I can start. So the first thing I get presented 2 is that welcome screen, which basically gives you a nice little guided tour of the features of Rapid. And right now I'm just going to go ahead and skip that for brevity since I'm doing that demo. And that's it. If you can see now, the done is flashing, letting me know that the initial setup is done. Okay, so Rapid is telling me that okay, everything is great, and my site is actually waiting for me at, the content for my site. They will be at content sample index. So let's just go ahead and check that real quick. So if you see there's no sample app here, when I go ahead and refresh, you will see that a sample application has indeed been created by Rapid for me. But again, this does not have to be the case. It could just be an existing application. So in this case, the application did not exist. Rapid went ahead and created one for me. Okay, so now the two important choices that are presented to me are, do I want to remain in AEM or remain in my site? Now, what does that mean? Remember, localhost 3000 was a PHP development server that we started, and that has nothing to do with AEM, which I'm running under localhost 4502, right? So Rapid gives me two choices. Now, I can remain in the PHP development server in my localhost 3000, and I will still be able to author the site using AEM, or I could just switch to AEM right now, go to my localhost 4502, and then I will also be able to author the site. So basically I have two entry points for the application at that point. So content owners may choose to still go to AEM, and they will see the website as a regular AEM application and use that to author. Developers may just choose to to run their web's development server and not having to go to AEM to edit. So in this instance, that's what I'm going to do. You do not have to make a permanent choice right now. You can change that at any given time. You can pivot between the two at any given time. So I'm going to remain in the site to edit. See that it's reloading right now. And that's it. Now I have two new elements in the page. So first I have the AEM sidekick to my left, and I also have a Rapid, which is that little transparent button right there over to my top left, which have some neat features that we will explore a little later. And that's it for now. I see AEM, I see the page properties, I see that AEM already has a path for my page and already knows some information about the page, such as the title of the page and whatnot. So that's great, but now since I'm using a content management system, what I expect to do is be able to author some content, right? Which unfortunately I cannot do right now. So AEM seems to have been introduced to the page, but unfortunately the content is still pretty much read-only. So let's go ahead and change that. The way you do you allow content authoring in Rapid is just by tagging, quote-unquote, the site, which basically the tags are nothing more than adding some HTML attribute, one HTML attribute in particular, to the HTML elements that you want to allow authoring, right? And the reason why it was done that way is just to allow developers to have very granular control over what they want to be authored through the content management system, as opposed to, okay, I just put Rapid in this page and everything becomes editable, right? So this allows you to have hybrid pages where some of the contents are coming from back-end data services, and some of the content are coming from your content management systems, and the ones that are obviously external, coming from other data services, you may not want to allow content authoring in them, right? So let's go ahead and tag this application, and I do so by adding that data design mode attribute, and the value of it is just the path of the content in AEM relative to the current page, right? So right now I'm on my index page, and that means that if I go to CRX under the application sample that I created, remember, I should see the page index, and once I start to author content, I should see this content here being under sample index GCR content title. So let's go ahead right now and see. There we go. We have the index page waiting for us, and there's no content under the GCR content of that page. Of course, we haven't started to introduce content through the CMS yet. I'm just tagging the page. So I'm just gonna go ahead and tag the second one as text, and pay no mind to the fact that this is called title and text. That doesn't have any impact on what type of components to use or whatnot. It's just a coincidental name I just used to, I think I used to name the H1 as a title and the div as a text. Okay, so another important factor is to note that this is actually a content path, right? So it could be any relative path in AEM, right? So that's it. Let's go save that and go ahead, refresh. Okay, the page is refreshed. Apparently nothing seemed to have happened, but yet something has, because now I have AEM insinuating that it recognizes those elements and it can author them. And here you can see, let me use it better. There we go, good title. And I'm going to use great text. And that's it. Just like that, I was able to author these in AEM. So let's go in the CRX and see what happened. And of course, I can see that the text component, the text content and the title content was created as I requested. And their content has also been imported in the CMS. You can see for the title, the content is good title, and for text, the content is great text. Okay, so you may have noticed that the text is using a foundation component text as a component, and the title is using a foundation component title. As you can see here, title component. So how did Rapid make that determination that, okay, I'm going to use a title for the H1 and a rich text component for the div? Well, by default, Rapid ship with some kind of manifest, right? A descriptor file that is used to instruct the engine how to map the HTML element to AEM components. And by default, Rapid comes with some values, right, that where some of the most common HTML elements are associated with the closest AEM component counterpart that could author their content, right? So for example, if you see this rule, I have for every H1, Rapid is going to use a foundation component's title and whatnot, and div is going to use a foundation component text, and that's what happens. Obviously, these rules are just provided out of the box. You could edit them, change them, use a completely custom component, and whatnot. And the selectors, they do not have to be a HTML element. They could be class or whatnot, a CSS selector. But that's how Rapid was able to determine what component to use for what. And just like that, my PHP vanilla application that a second ago did not have any concept of authoring CMS and whatnot is being authored in one of the most powerful content management system out there. So what does that mean? That means a lot. That means that for huge application, you do not have to basically completely change your backend system, your infrastructure, getting new AEM Java developers just because you would like to use AEM. You can use AEM, leverage the features of AEM without having to change any of that. Your development stack remains the same and whatnot. And also another good case is some application, they actually have some businesses, they have applications in many languages. They have some applications in .NET, some in Java, some in PHP, some in Node, whatnot, and each one of them then have to use their own content management system. So using a tool like that, you can have you can still have these applications running using their current infrastructure, and also while the content authors, they just learn one tool, they have one experience and one place to go and manage all those websites. Okay, so in a nutshell, that's how to introduce Rapid. I also told you that it was possible to quickly pivot between AEM and my application. So right now I'm on my localhost 3000. I'm going to go ahead to resources and click on the CMS. So, and if you can check here, you'll see that I'm now in my 4502, and now I can check the site out in AEM's contacts, right? So now that's a good thing. But one question might be that, well, I only had these two elements on the page. Does that mean that a content author cannot introduce new content in the page? Or what if I wanted to add an image or what have you? Well, this is entirely possible, right? So in AEM, what you would do to allow a content author to introduce arbitrary elements in the pages, you would use a container component, right? Such as a parses and whatnot. So the same concept applies to Rapid. So if I wanted to introduce allow a content author to introduce content to the page, I would have to add container elements to the page. And one of the default rules here uses section for a foundation component parses. So we're going to do just that and see what it looks like. I'm going to go ahead in the PHP application, introduce a parses, go ahead, refresh, and now I should be able to allow, there you see, drag and drop components here. I would be able to allow people to drag new components. Obviously this is a fresh new install of AEM. I need to design this parses to tell what group of components that or what component in particular I want to allow. So in this case, I'm just going to go and allow the general group of components. That's it. Get out of design mode, and that's it. Now I'm ready to introduce new components to this page using the parses. In fact, this is a good opportunity to go ahead and go back to AEM at my 4502, because here I have access to all my contents and whatnot, and now I can introduce content to the website very easily using all the AEM features that I want. Okay, so there's definitely extensibility there. Also, one of the very cool features that Rapid allows is Rapid. Well, basically, just a little background about AEM. AEM components are server side. They are rendered on the server, right? So, which is good, because that means that the server is able to generate the components, and so far you can render pretty much most of your application in the back end and be able to provide valuable SEO data. So that is a good thing, but the problem with that is the numerous front-end applications and frameworks out there now, they expect that to render the view in the front end, right? So my Angular application wants me to use my directive, my templates, and some content or XML or JSON content enabled to render those components, right? So whereas this is kind of a different direction that AEM took. So for most, it's been kind of hard to reconcile the two. And there's ways, there's techniques to use to introduce single page applications in AEM. Some of them are, go as far as, maintaining two websites. One is a fake application that you author in AEM. It's not really the real application, but then you consume the content from the real application. Some of them allow to have like blank pages where the content authors just basically see components. They go to AEM, they see the components, they don't really see the page, any of the CSS or the styling. They see the components, they author them, save, go back to their to the real website and see what they've just changed. Well, Rapid, one of the interesting features that Rapid allows is tagging the application does not have to happen ahead of time. It does not have to be predetermined by the backend, right? I can author and introduce new content from the front end. So let's go ahead and simplify that just to see what that looks like. All right, so let's go back to the vanilla web page. Suppose I have these two components, right? Good title, great text, and I want, let's say I'm using Angular or vanilla JavaScript or whatever at the end of the day, I am using the front end. I intend to use the front end to